Live from White House lanes, it's Bowling with Biden.
It's go time!
This man's going to win a lot of political offices.
Now, here's your Bowling with Biden host, Mark Thompson.
Yes, thank you. Biden's political position rapidly deteriorating as this news conference looms. I mean, this is a huge gamble, I think. I mean, it is a news conference at which they'll be shouting all kinds of different questions, which is fine, but at which it's unclear, in my judgment, based on what I've seen, that Joe Biden can handle it. A bunch of different questions thrown at him. It's at the conclusion of the NATO summit. There's a lot to talk about. The NATO summit, the prospective expansion of NATO. There's even now talk of a path to NATO inclusion of Ukraine. That, by the way, is such an interesting and scary notion at this point, because obviously Ukraine is embattled. But that all aside, the idea that, speaking of embattled, this president could address the press and then take questions from the press. A president who hasn't done a bunch of press conferences, who really hasn't exposed himself to that kind of situation in some time. And then when we see him live, which was in that debate environment, he was out on his feet. It was like a standing 8 count. So if Democrats had unified in backing up Biden, maybe this could have gone better. Maybe. I mean, there's clearly a sense of that. But it is indeed the case that the ground is shifting under Joe Biden, that despite the fact that he has talked about his resolve in moving forward, you have people, like I mentioned, Nancy Pelosi, you have senators and Congress people sending him signals. This is a problem. But for what's going through Biden's mind, I thought this Chris Matthews clip was instructive, and I'm going to play it for you now. And again, I don't worship at the church of Chris Matthews the way I think Ron Owens was a big Chris Matthews pal anyway. I have issues with some stuff with Chris Matthews, but I also have mad respect for the history and for the work he's done through the years. I mention this because, again, the reason I like Chris Matthews for this question, the future of Biden and the future of the Democrats, is that when you look at Biden, you're looking at an old institutionalist. I mean, obviously, he's an aged man, but I mean, he's really old school institutionalist. He adores the institutions of Washington. He's worked within the institutions of Washington. He's managed to craft policy, make mistakes, and also enjoy triumphs through these institutions. So I like that another institutionalist, in this case, Chris Matthews, speaks on this. Here he is this morning.
Chris, and here is more from the Washington Post poll we mentioned a few moments ago. The latest Washington Post ABC News Ipsos poll
I'm sure
finds
this is good news.
that 2/3 of U.S. adults want President Biden to step aside and let someone else run. 56% of Democrats say President Biden should end his candidacy, while 42% say he should continue to seek re-election. That same poll finds Biden and former President Donald Trump in a dead heat, with both candidates receiving 46% support nationally among registered voters.
Yeah.
I'm going to just
So
tee you up
again,
there,
let's just
Joe.
stop for a
I
second,
just said
Albert, and then
Rory,
we'll
I
go
mean-
back to it. But the reason I'm stopping is it backs up some of what you're seeing in our chat. Many who are saying, just shut up, back this guy, and let's keep the fascist out, right? I think that's a big no vote that you're seeing. That's a no vote against Trump. And that's what you're seeing in those statistics. But the one thing I'll mention, and then I will go back to the Chris Matthews clip. I think that this idea somehow where you just hang on tight and you wait for Trump to drown himself with these extreme positions and the reminder of Roe and the reminder of the Supreme Court, it might work, but I don't think it will work. That's my own take on it. So
he's already been so extreme and no one cares.
That's what's happening is I think they hang on tight and maybe he'll drown himself. Now, back to the clip.
Moment where we are, whether this president should move forward, whether he should step aside and open the door to the great unknown for Democrats. Many Democrats appear willing to take that risk and see what's behind the door. What do you think?
Well, I think we have to look at all the facts. And one of the facts is Joe Biden. He's a fact. This guy has earned his way to this position in life, United States president. He got here the long way. In 1972, he ran against Caleb Boggs, a 3-term congressman, a 2-term governor, a 2-term U.S. senator, and he beat him. He beat him well. And he rode around in a car the next day and was celebrated for having pulled that upset because he put out no television in Wilmington or Delaware. He put out literature the weekend before delivered by volunteers, which was a brilliant piece of literature. John Martella did it. He is a politician who's been good at it. He's been reelected every time since then in Delaware with pretty healthy majorities. In life, he lost his wife and he lost his daughter, and he found Jill. Now, who's he going to listen to, Jill or George Clooney? I'm telling you, it's personal. He's had the elite, and it's so true about the elite. He is absolutely right about the elite. Look at President Obama. He served for 8 years loyally, and yet Obama backed Hillary Clinton for president and didn't back him. But I hear he never even invited him upstairs. He had a good reason to be resentful, but he isn't. He puts up with it with the elite. But right now, he's got the poor people. He's got minorities. He's got Hispanics. He's going to put out the labor. He's going to hold that base of the Democratic Party, which he will need in November. And I'm telling you, people are going to end up rooting for him in October because he will have a comeback. And in this elite fashioned attack on him, they're going to pay for it. But in the end, they're going to end up voting for him. So I think Biden will be the little guy. He'll be the Democrat in this race, the true Democrat. And he's going to get people to turn for him in October. It's going to be stunning. He is not quitting. He is not built to quit.
So that is the institutional mainstream Democratic thinking from a mainstream Democratic institutionalist, as I say, Chris Matthews. Not to say it's not true, but it does represent I'd suggest at this point, given polling and some of the grim forecasts, I'd suggest it's a little fantastical thinking. You watch, he's going to come back in October. It's going to be great. I mean, you watch. He is losing support. And this news conference, it may either be a huge rebound for him or it might be the last move he makes before it's all over, meaning that it becomes academic, that this guy can't do it any longer. There is campaign fundraising news, and you can say, Chris Matthews, that the elites, they're making these decisions, they're pressuring him, and I think there is some truth to that there's, again, these are the institutions of the Democratic Party. And when I mention elite, or when he says elite, of course, he's talking about George Clooney. But George Clooney isn't just an actor. He is a massive contributor to the Democratic Party. And there are others like him that aren't well-known people who are also turning. So it's always interesting to me when somebody's putting down the elites. And that has been the move by Joe Biden of late. And I understand it. He feels, he's circling the wagons. He feels he's the aggrieved party here. But my point is simply, you need those elites. Yeah, the same people that you're scorching in your rhetoric today on Morning Joe, Chris Matthews, you need them. You need that money. Let's see how that's doing. President Joe Biden's campaign has already suffered a major slowdown in donations. Officials are bracing for a seismic fundraising hit. This from NBC News. It's already disastrous, one of the sources close to Biden's reelection said of fundraising. The money has absolutely shut off, said another source. Two of the sources said that this month is on a path to be down by possibly half or much worse. That's from large donors alone. So those elite, again, that you bite the hand that feed you with those elite, they are not on board.
Why would you donate if there's a question mark as to who's going to run?
Sure.
Why wouldn't you wait until all this shakes out and then say, okay, now that we've got it ironed out, who's going to run, who's going to be the candidate, now I'll pony up the money. So that makes sense.
Donors are negative. They had a call with the president. This is a quote. The call seems so contrived to people. I don't think they buy it, one of the people close to the campaign said, referring to a recent national fundraising call between Biden and donors. They called on people who were the most loyal diehards. There were no tough questions for the president. And then let me just offer this from the Biden people so it doesn't seem too one-sided. A Biden campaign spokesperson pushes back against the notion that fundraising is down. That's not accurate. On grassroots fundraising, the first 7 days of July were the best start to the month or on the campaign, and many of those were first-time donors, she says. On the high dollar side, we've had folks max out since the debate as well. So this is all important stuff. And now about polling. Biden's former communications director is coming forward. Does everybody know Kate Bedingfield? Kate Bedingfield handled all the White House comms for a while, and now she was on something of a little mini media tour, and she's pushing for the Biden campaign to show the internal polling. They talk about the fact that they've got internal polling, which reflects the fact that Biden really has a good shot and actually hasn't lost ground. And she's saying if they have that data, this is a quote, that supports the path to victory that they see, they should put it out there now. She goes on, I know firsthand better than almost anyone how smart the Biden team is about data and about ignoring the noise. They are right that the game here is to convince voters, not pundits. But when the battle over the public data is so overwhelmingly negative, it's a good moment to put forward your theory of the case, she says. If they have data that supports the path to victory that they see, they should put it out there now and help people who badly want to beat Trump rally around that data. People want to see the path. Really interesting. Really interesting. They talk about internal data, and they do. I mean, they have some really great stuff from what I understand, meaning some granular type data. Now, I don't know if it really shows what they're talking about, but so this unscripted news conference will be a pivotal moment, maybe a rebound for Biden. I think it's a hold your breath moment. I also feel as though this idea that's being suggested and floated in virtually every one of these, pundit festivals that cable TV is, which is he should go out there and he should do one of these a day. He should meet with the press one a day. He needs a lot of unscripted, unspooled. He'll do town hall, go from a town hall to a press conference, and press conference back to another town hall. Yeah, guys, that the dude's not a ninja when it comes to speaking and when it comes to expressing himself right now. He may be a ninja in terms of public policy and shaping a future for America, but his ability to communicate that is clearly diminished.
Yeah.
And so the idea somehow that he's going to do a ton of town halls and he's going to do a bunch of press conferences, it's just crazy. It's not a constructive idea.
He's going to do the press conference by himself, which is interesting because usually you have people backing you up. You've got people that you can turn to for the facts and figures if you need them, if a question is asked. But he'll be, from what I understand, he'll be solo. And I get a lot of questions about when is this news conference happening and where is it? It's 6:30 Eastern, which is 3:30 Pacific.
Correct.
And it's a news conference, so it should be carried on every network.
Right.
Kim, how are you?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Based on what I'm seeing, he will not be accompanied. Now, you could say it's not a question of just like being accompanied by advisors or whatever, or Mr. President, here's this. It's the end of the NATO summit, so he could be there with other NATO
World
alliance
leaders.
members, this kind of thing. Yeah, but that's not going to be at least the configuration that they described. So Kim is so right about that. With that, my friends, and with a little piece of analysis from Chris Matthews, that's your Bowling with Biden.
That's all for this edition.
There's your new leader.
But join us again next time for Bowling with Biden.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.